Greetings and salutations, everybody. Hello and welcome to Network Now, a podcast designed to help you build business connections and create opportunities. I'm Lee Foster. I'm the owner and founder of Revitalize Connecting People. And with me today are my co-hosts, Julie Taylor and Louisa Stewart of the Blue Ninja Business Support based over in the Netherlands. Now, can I please hand it over to Louisa? Louisa, over to you, and please introduce our special guest for today on how to find your network. Thank you.
Thanks, Lee, very much. I'm extremely excited today to welcome Amanda Johnson. Amanda is a military veteran who did 23 years in the Royal Navy as logistics officer. I believe it was a lieutenant commander, if I understand correctly, Amanda.
Yeah.
And you're now a business coach specializing in supporting virtual assistants, or VAs, as we'll reference today. And in fact, today she runs one of the UK and Europe's leading virtual assistant training companies, VACT Limited, as well as running the UK VA Awards, UK VA Conference, and the Be My VA directory, which helps connect business owners with their virtual assistant. Amanda is an award-winning virtual assistant coach, trainer, and mentor, and international speaker, and we are very happy to have you on our podcast today. So welcome, Amanda.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, pleasure. So Amanda was my mentor as I did my accredited VA mastery course in 2016, 2017, I believe. And she's a no-nonsense woman, and she tells it how it is.
That's not changed. That's still me.
And so your VA Facebook group has nearly 5,000 members on it now, and I think it's grown quite considerably over the last few years. So, Amanda, where did your networking journey start?
Okay, so my networking journey actually probably started during my military career, because as a logistics officer in a ship or an establishment, you connected with people, because actually that's the way you got things done. So if I was trying to move something or get something, etc., that's where my sort of exposure to networking and building relationships first started. But I never knew it as networking at that point. For me, that was just doing your job and talking to people, etc. So it was only when I left the military and set up my own virtual assistant business that actually I suddenly realised I knew nobody in what I'm going to call the real world. I didn't know any business owners because I'd been in the military. I'd lived in a town nearly 20 years, but didn't know any business owners because I got up in the morning and I drove to work and I came home each night. So I left the military, or my final day in service was actually the 11th of December 2012. And when you're in the military, you're not allowed to have a business. So I left the military, launched my business on the 12th of December, and literally my website went live, my network, my business cards arrived. And the very first thing I did on that first day in business was I went networking. And that's literally the start of my sort of networking journey. But back then, she says very naively, I thought you go networking, you do a pitch, and everybody's going to love you and buy from you. And it doesn't work like that, does it? So then at that point, that's when I realised that build the relationships, and actually networking was about building the relationships. Does that sort of help?
Yeah. Do you think networks changed from then to now? Like the way that you network, has it changed very much?
Me personally, yes, the way I've changed networking has changed, because I no longer give my pitch and hope somebody buys. But actually, you'll know these words very well, and I know you'll know where they've come from very well, Louisa, is that networking for me is about building know, like, trust. And I literally went networking for the first time that December. And then in January, I was introduced to Bob Berg. And I was introduced to Bob Berg's book, The Go-Giver.
Love Bob
Exactly.
Love Bob Berg. I've got his book sitting on my desk. This is the book Amanda sent me. I don't know if you can see it. That was my first business book that Amanda gave me, which I treasure.
But that for me was the point that I learned, actually, as a result of that book, what networking was truly about. And it was about building relationships, build the know, like, trust. And so for me, I went from being this very naive business person in the December to reading that book in the January. And I say that book changed my life both personally and professionally. And it was from doing that and being a true go-giver and following those 5 rules or 5 laws that actually I then learned how to network. And so over those years, yes, networking's changed, but for me, it's that core principle: build the relationship, know, like, trust, and the business will come. And it's a much better place to come at it from.
Yeah.
And Amanda, how have you found where to network?
So when I first started out, my first networking was literally in my local town. And I Googled networking and the name of the town. I had no idea what I was going to go into. Now, bearing in mind, I had said I didn't want to work with women. I only wanted to work with men that were of a certain age, etc. So where was that first networking I went to? All women, all female networking. Scared the living daylights out of me. But I did it and it was okay. But fast forward, I realised that networking doesn't have to be just in a room with people over lunch or whatever, but actually it was important that I knew what I wanted to get out of it and what was I trying to do. So then I tried lots of different networking. Somebody said to me, Amanda, you need to become a networking tart. And I still to this day carry that through even to my clients. It's like, go and network anywhere and everywhere for 90 days. Go and meet people, talk to people, see who you gel with, connect with, like. Who do you want to come back and talk to? And then realise, okay, do you know what? That's the right group of people for me, or that's the right group of people for me. And you don't have to be everywhere all of the time thereafter. You can be much more selective about where it is you want to spend your time and things like that.
It's a really important thing when you talk about that as well. It's really that know, like, and trust, that was building up relationships with individuals as well, is really a key ingredient. Question I'd like to ask you as well, Amanda, if you don't mind, is when was the tipping point for networking for you? Was it over maybe the first month? Was it 3 months? Was it 6 months? Or did it take longer for really the tipping point to happen where people really got to know who you were, if you know what I mean?
I think 12 months.
Okay.
I think it took at least 12 months because, and that may have been just because it was me and not normal people who've worked in the place. But you've got to remember, 23 years, I was institutionalized. I'd come from a role where actually I used to ask people to do things and they did it because it's a rank-based role. So I was a lieutenant commander. I used to have a team of 60. I was used to going out there, and all of a sudden, actually I was going out there to sell me, and I'd never sold me. I'd never marketed me. I was a person that was used to asking somebody, what do you need doing? How do you need it? When do you need it? And going away and putting that into place. And all of a sudden I had to go and market myself and market my skills. And so I was probably a rubbish networker right in the very beginning, because I had to learn how to build those relationships, how to talk to people, how to realize it was for the long game. So I am a firm believer that business is playing the long game, and actually we make connections throughout our business journey that we'll call back on years later. So nowadays I know that from somebody might meet me at a trade show or an event, and I see that as part of networking, doing those things, but they might meet me at a trade show or an event and actually not buy for 1 or 2 years. And generally it's 2 to 2.5 years is the lead generation time for me. And so actually I've got to nurture that relationship throughout that period of time. And that's all part of networking.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. It does take time. There's not, because I used to say to people, there isn't that, where's that room where everybody's just ready to buy, they've got the card out and ready to do it. And it's just like, well, I'm not sure that room exists. So how do you go about testing and measuring whether a network is a good fit for you?
So I suppose nowadays a lot of my networking is either in-person events, so trade shows, speaking at conferences, events and things like that. And then actually it's about networking online. So I run, as Louisa said, a Facebook community of 5,000 VAs. I started that group for networking, to be that safe place to ask the awkward question that you were too scared to ask anywhere else. to be that water cooler moment, to ask somebody how to do something. And then I also run groups that go with my courses, and I see those as networking. And so if I look at sort of trade shows and things like that, it is about return on investment. It is about tracking your numbers. It is about knowing, but I know it takes 2 to 2.5 years. So I can't go to a trade show, get a load of people sign up, and then think, or have I got any sales or no sales? Oh, that's rubbish. I've got to go, okay, no, I need to nurture that relationship and see over the duration of that time. In a Facebook community, which is where my group is, do you know what? That's just about being a good person. That for me, that is about being, it's about being a person that somebody can get to know, like, and trust. And at the right time, the right people will go, you need to talk to Amanda. And that's when somebody will do. So don't get me wrong, there are days when I've gone, sod it, I'm going to close it and I'm going to do this and I'm never going to go out of my house again and I'm not going to talk to anybody. Because we all have days, well, I hope we all have days like that. But it is about being in this for the long game, and therefore the long game is about also giving back and being a good person.
I found, Amanda, when you were at trade shows and we'd sort of come and meet you, you were kind of our safe space. So we'd come to Amanda to have that little point of, it's okay to be here and not know what to do next, you know, and then Amanda go and talk to that person down there. There's someone over there that's really interested. Go over there. So off you go and talk to this person. Said, Amanda recommended I come and talk to you. It was just such a lovely way of sort of giving us confidence to go out and talk to people, because it is a huge step to go out and talk to strangers, isn't it? It's, you know, you don't know how to start a conversation or anything like that.
And you have to learn to get it, you have to get it wrong to know how to get it right.
100%. Yeah, it's very true. I mean, also as well, that's so true. You've got to try it before you get it right. Of course, you've got to test, you've got to measure it. You've got to make sure it's working for you. You've got to keep going at it. It's like we talked yesterday about like a marathon versus a sprint, you know, and actually putting the training in behind it to get better at something on that. A good question for you, Amanda, is that, did you set out some questions prior to any events, exhibitions that you went to? Did you have some key icebreakers, conversation starters that you used to use in identifying your tribe as such?
I would always make it about the other person rather than about me.
Yep.
So for me, in all of this, and even it's down to, what have you got from the show? Who have you found good to talk to? What is it you're hoping to get from this? How long have you been to this event before? So from a networking perspective, if I was in a room of people, I would sort of, I'll let you into a secret. I'm really, really shy. I'm an introvert, and everybody thinks I've got a very bold brand. It's magenta pink and all of that. Everybody thinks I'm very, very confident. Actually, I get petrified. And it's almost, it's about putting your big girl knickers on, pulling them up firmly, up to underneath your boob sort of thing, and being really, really brave and just putting yourself out there and going, okay, if I just talk to one person, that's that confidence piece, and then you can go to you can recharge your batteries and you can go back and do it again. And so for me, what I found was, if I went networking and wanted to talk about me, I didn't want to go in that room. I didn't want to go in the door or go on a Zoom call or on a podcast or anything. But actually, if it was about the other person, it was so much easier. And then naturally I would ask a question, they would ask a question back. Oh, I can answer that. And then you're into a conversation.
Yeah. I think that's such an interesting point as well, that you're taking an interest in the other person first, because then they'll start to respond back to you, and it's a two-way conversation that opens up. A lot of people, we talked about it yesterday, Louisa and Julie, it's that farmer versus hunter, or the hunter versus the farmer. And we have to become more farmers within the networking space, is what I've believed in for many, many years, and have a ginormous law of abundance in giving first to receive, possibly even something later on from there as well. I think that's a really good point there, Amanda. Thank you.
We touched on that as well yesterday about being interested rather than interesting. It's about not going in there talking about yourself and your wonderful pitch. It's about asking questions, and that really sort of breaks down the barriers. And a nice approach. I like that.
Amanda, who would you say have been those that have influenced you the most in your network journey? I'm sure Bob's up there.
I was going to say Bob is totally up there, actually. I love Bob dearly, and for anybody who's listening who's not heard of Bob and John David Mann wrote the book The Go-Giver, but actually Bob lives everything about that book. So anybody comments on his social media posts, Bob comments back. Anybody tags him, he responds back, but with genuine interest. Not fake interest, not just because of the thing. There is that absolute genuine interest and gratitude. And for me, I was listening to your walk on LinkedIn earlier, your video you shared earlier, Lee, which was about gratitude.
Yeah.
And actually that was also for me something that comes from the networking piece, was about learning to be grateful and taking time to have that gratitude and saying thank you. So Bob is probably the person that influenced me the most, and he'll be very excited to hear that probably from this. But actually, the others were people who took the time to stop, to talk, to listen, to actually educate me how to be a better networker. So there isn't just one person, because actually it was probably everybody who put up with me in that first 12 months of learning to network, in all honesty.
Were you quite military precisioned about it?
Oh, definitely.
Had your book?
Yes. And yeah, I used to have a networking journal. So I had a notebook that was in my brand colours, which used to, top right hand corner, would have the date. I would tell you what I wore underneath it in my notebook. I would have my 60-second pitch scripted out because I was petrified. And then as I got more and more confident, so it used to be bullet points.
Yeah.
But the reason for having that journal was actually what I used to, as we went around the room and people talked, I would make notes on what people were looking for, what help they wanted, so that afterwards I could actually, if I knew of a good blog post or a good book or a good resource, I could ping them an email and say, hey, today you mentioned this. Have you seen this? And I would share a link or something like that to it. But I would use that same notebook in my one-to-ones, and then months or years later, somebody might say to me, oh, I'm looking for such and such. And I'd go, hold on a second, and flick back through, and I could go, oh yeah, you need to talk to so-and-so. And so those were the things that got me through it. But actually, that all comes from my military journey. Of when I first joined the military, we used to have, I did my writer's training. So I initially joined as a junior rate and worked my way up. But when we used to do writer's training in the old days, everything was all done by books of reference. You didn't have computers. That's how old I am. And you had to know which book of reference to tap into. So you would have an index book called an Alfie, and it would be an alphabetical book, and it would be, I don't know, if we were talking about allowances under A, it would say allowances and which book it was, BR 1950. I can still tell you these things, some of them. And it would be all the way through. But that networking book became my Alfie. It became my thing that actually I could take. And actually, because it was in my brand colours, I could hold it. I had something to hold. I don't drink tea or coffee. And so networking when you don't drink tea or coffee is also really interesting, because you don't have to go to the tea or coffee station, which is normally one of the icebreakers.
Yeah.
You don't go there when you don't drink tea or coffee. So, yeah.
It's weird. Again, it's another interesting point of having like a journal. Many people don't record down their details of the day, or they don't record the details of the week that goes in it. I can relate to that as well, Amanda, because when I started networking out of a corporate career as well, I used to do a networker journal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's at the end of every week on a Friday. I should do a flashback of my week on the road and who I'd met, and interesting facts and what had been happening and where I've been to, and identifying the organizers, the influencers that I've met or the networks that I've been to, and tag them into a post to just show a bit of gratitude for meeting them. But that just tracked my whole week, and it just brought to life colorful and experiences and people that I was actually getting with. And I still have my notebook now that I carry with me 24/7. So yeah, really good point. Thank you for sharing that.
But it allows you to also see what's worked and what hasn't worked.
Yes.
So I used to, when I was a VA, I used to work with a gentleman called Steve Clark, who was a sales and marketing coach. And Steve taught me the acronym www.EBI. So what's working well, even better if. And actually, that was one of those things. It came from being in a network with him and learning those things. I was like, okay, actually, this is working. I can carry on. Or what do I need to do more of? Or, so going back to your question, Julie, about what's tracking, it's like, actually, that's not bringing me any business, or it's not necessarily getting me any leads, but actually I have a tribe who make me feel safe, or who I can learn from, or I can go. So there's me saying I didn't want to work with women and I chose an all-female networking group. That was because I didn't know an accountant in my town. I didn't know a website developer. I didn't know any of those things. So I wanted to go somewhere to get exposure to those sorts of people.
Yeah. I think for this week, we're talking about how to find your network. And I think for me, I found a network through Amanda. So I was thrilled to have Amanda here because for me it's about how Amanda has connected me to other people, as much as learning about Amanda's journey, from your experiences. Amanda, what would be your key advice for those who are just starting their networking journey?
Become a networking tart. Become a networking tart to work out who you actually like talking to and who you feel safe with, who you feel you can be open with, honest with, etc. So that's the first bit. It's becoming that networking tart to find that right place, and then be in it for the long game, not the short game. If you're going networking expecting quick wins and all of that, that's not networking to me. That's just you're going out there and pitching and you happen to be lucky in getting clients. Networking is about that long game, and it's about that, I nearly said strategic use of networking. So it's knowing, so I do think when we go networking, we need to have a purpose and we have to know what it is we're looking to do and all those things. So it's about, what do I want to get out of it? So it might be that actually I'm looking to connect with people in a particular area, or I'm looking to talk to more of a particular type of person, or being honest to people and saying, I'm looking for clients in this industry. Who do you know that perhaps I should talk to? And so for me, top tips would be become a networking tart to find the right people that you need to be with, play the long game, but actually know what you're wanting networking to give you. So nowadays, the VA help desk is the one for me. That's about having a tribe of people that have got a safe space to talk to somebody. Yes, work gets passed around. Yes, things like that happen, but they're added bonuses. That network was set up to be a safe space.
Yeah, we did the same thing because we didn't have an English-speaking business network where we were in the Netherlands,
Yep.
and so Julie and I just went and set one up. And we went, safe space. Come here if you're unsure, if you need advice, help, etc. Celebrate. The other thing I learned from you was always celebrate your wins. Celebrate who you meet. Those experiences of life. And you can do that through networking, I think, too. If you have a successful day of networking, if you feel like you've walked out at the end of the day, feeling good about it, celebrate that too, because every day that you feel like you've stepped another foot forward is a great day.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's such a good point to mention on there as well. And I think we mentioned it quite a lot, the thread running through. A lot of people, a lot of connections, unfortunately, look at networking as sale.
Yeah.
But networking is the safe space. Networking, or networking groups in general, are really a platform, a community to give you support, knowledge, and assistance in whatever you're going through. Having that chance to reach out to somebody, to ask the question without having anybody thinking, why are you asking that question for? Have a team that's around you. I think networking is more than just the sale, the objective, the goal that you're looking to achieve. Networking should be part and parcel of supporting each other. We mentioned it yesterday. Vitalize was created back in the day because of being a place for business connections from a business role to a business owner, and to be able to bridge that gap between each other, to be able to connect the dots, and having that area where you can ask that question. They can give you help and advice, even if you're in a role or as a business owner just starting off as well. I think it's so important, like yourself and Louisa and Julie have said there, having these areas to use and to utilize to the full advantage. Some great points there, Louisa, Amanda, and Julie. Thank you.
Okay, I think that just about wraps it up for today's session. Thank you so much, Amanda, for joining us on Network Now. We've loved having you with us today. And tomorrow, we're really looking forward to speaking to Sylvia Thor, who is a serial entrepreneur and business mentor. We hope you can join us. So make sure you follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube and Anchor FM on the Revitalize and Blue Ninja social media platforms. And I think that's it for today. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, everybody. Look forward to seeing you all again soon. And Amanda, thank you so much for being our guest today. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing everybody again, as Julie says, tomorrow at 3:30. So stay tuned, subscribe to the channels, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, everybody. Take care and keep connecting. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.